Your Allard's neighborhood. This is the place where you're entitled to Brad's opinion. And now for your host, Brad Allard.
Well, good morning, y'all. Hope y'all getting some rain. We got a little bit over here, about a tenth of an inch over here, 3 miles east of the highway. How about you, Taylor? You get any rain?
Yeah, it was raining cats and dogs earlier. And if you ask Siri what the weather is today, she says there's a tornado. So
Really? Well, if it's
didn't
raining,
look like it outside.
oh well, it's saying if it's raining cats and dogs, don't step in a poodle. Anyway,
Look at
dad
you.
joke. Anyway, we're going to be talking about, is this indictment or of Donald Trump? Is it selective enforcement or is it justice? Or is it both? And how does it compare with other FBI related cases, including Hillary Clinton, which might sound like we're beating a dead horse, but that is pertinent in this case because they're very similar in their charges. Also, we're going to look at Hunter Biden's plea deal, and is that a sweetheart deal, or do the smart guys think it's pretty appropriate or about normal, whatever else? I do have a clip from NBC News about all that, which is very fair, I think, because they don't skirt over some of the other issues that are confronting Mr. Hunter Biden and what it means for Joe Biden as well. But it's got a lot going on. All right, I'm a little bit stuffed up today. I don't know what the reason is. A lot of dust in the air, all that stuff. You getting all that stuff going on with you, Taylor?
Oh, for sure. Anytime
What?
it rains at all, it's always something.
Well, it's always something. Well, it's always summertime when I get all clogged up because all the dust. But anyway, enough of the weather. Let's talk about the sponsors, which are always reliable. Okay, CrossFit Burleson, 317 Southwest Wilshire, are new owners with Lexi and Bailey. They'll show you the new programs, and they maintain a lot of the old programs. And they have on their website classes and other schedules, if you want to do that, to go from early morning to early afternoon to early evening. Also, they have, someone just clicked. Okay. Also, they have some other ideas that they want to expand into bodybuilding, which I think is going to be pretty interesting, to tell you the truth. We'll see what happens with that. But there you go. Also, thank you to Shandy. Shandy was going to be on Tuesday, but ironically enough, she will be at my daughter's closing because she's helping my daughter sell her house. So she has to postpone. And actually, since it is my birthday, we won't be having a show on Tuesday just because at this late day it's hard to find an appropriate guest anyway and then waste your time. Anyway, Shandy Stoggsdale, the Stoggsdale Group, obviously I endorse her, and I hope you do too. Also, thank you to Otto. I just there this morning. Usual great service, great food, great everything. My crew of men trying to solve all the world's problems. They had plenty of opinions on today's show that they were more than willing to share. Aren't they nice? But there you go. But our place always is a great place to do business and to meet people, meet friends, great food, great times. Same thing with Chris over Wild Cigars. Get yourself a decent drink, get yourself a decent smoke, get yourself away from some of the hair pulling and loud bars and carrying on that goes on, and just be able to contemplate life's mysteries over there, or meet a friend or have a meeting over there. They have a conference room, so you can do a lot over there. Also, Tiffany, very busy as always. Her magazine will be out in about 10 days. Also, check out locallifetx.com because it has a lot of current stuff, plus the QR code you need if you want to take part in the party in the pavilion, which is going to be on July 4th. And that's always a lot of fun. There's vendors and there's food and there's games, and there's also going to be great seats for the fireworks show. And so, party at the pavilion, July 4th. Check out the QR code on locallifetx.com. And we have Southern Gym with Gala. They're still moving as much as they can down to the bottom floor. They should be open pretty soon. The goal is within 10 days. They can't just do it all at once because they're trying to stay open and move at the same time, and it's kind of tough. But go and see them over the top floor right now, bottom floor very soon for repairs, for inventory, for special occasions, whatever else. Also, thank you to Old Pro Roofing. John Williams is their rep out here, 817-734-2756. I see a lot of roofing signs out here, including Old Pro, and you want to deal with somebody you want to deal with somebody local. They're located in Old Town, so you know where to find them. So John Williams, 817-734-2756. And along with other storm-related deals, Texas Farm Bureau Insurance with Melissa Harmon, 682-804-0534, and she'll help you with your insurance programs, help you with your plans, help you with your whatever your rates are and whatnot and your coverages. And she saved me money and helped me improve my coverage. So she could do the same for you. And also, if you have water damage or fire damage or any other kind of environmental hazard damage, Stop Restoration's who you call. Lisa and Morris Smith. Oh, they're here locally. They're over by Chisholm Trail in 1187. So you're dealing with local folks. And Stop Restoration will get it right the first time. She has us well trained to say that. So if you have some sort of environmental hazard or any other kind of water damage, fire damage, you name it, they can handle it. And just a couple of quick reminders. Check out Burleson Buzz this week. They got a couple of stories on our friends, the railroaders, and also some other local news. And it came out a couple of days ago, and there's updates usually throughout the week. So Cody O'Brien's getting that thing off the ground, and give him a try. I think you'll be glad, because we need some sort of local news outlet. I believe that's it for the nonprofits as well. So there you go. So what are we talking about today? We're talking about the indictments of Trump, and is that appropriate in this case? Is it selective enforcement in this case, or is it both? And my answer is going to be it's both. And the thing about it is that trying to discuss this issue is with anybody is kind of difficult. A lot of people have very strong opinions about, should Mr. Trump have been indicted? Or is it unfair that others seemingly got off the hook for similar crimes, or accusations at least, and nothing happened to them other than, a couple of yik yaks in the commentary section in the Wall Street Journal, and that's about it. It's a complex question, but I'm going to take the first question first. Selective enforcement. My opinion is that the FBI, particularly under James Comey, who is a disgrace to this country, should have pursued with equal vigor the Hillary Clinton situation as what's happening now with Donald Trump. I'm not going to say that, well, because Hillary got off the hook, that Trump should have. My point is that if Trump is going to go through this, as I think he should, they should have done the same in other cases, particularly with Hillary Clinton. She was a candidate for office just like Mr. Trump is. She was, high profile, highly connected politician, just like Mr. Trump is. Yet somehow James Comey found a way to excuse her activities. If, this is, again, old news, 7 years old or more, but we're all talking about those famous emails. And a lot of those emails were just junk. But on that email server, which she had in her bathroom in her home, an unsecure server, which could be hacked by some 17-year-old kid practically, she did have material that was classified. Now, her excuse was, I didn't know. I didn't know it was unclassified. That's the excuse Mr. Trump is using. The difference is, in James Comey's case, he said, well, she did not intend to break the law, and therefore we're not going to pursue this any further. Intention, I did not know, was part of the whole deal. If I commit a violation of the law, like I don't pay my taxes, like Hunter Biden, I got a real problem. Okay? I don't get the excuse, I did not intend to break the law. If I broke the law, my intention may mitigate the punishment, but it doesn't mitigate the fact that I broke the law. Hillary Clinton broke the law. Now, should she have been prosecuted and all this other business? Well, according to the FBI's excuse about all this, is that she was much more cooperative, and she did not try to withhold evidence and all this other business as they are accusing Mr. Trump. But the fact of the matter is, Hillary Clinton broke the law back in 2016 or longer, whatever period she held those emails on that server. And the intention may, again, mitigate how long her punishment is, if there is any, she probation, whatever. But it doesn't mean she didn't break the law. Okay? Me driving 70 and a 60 and I get a ticket, and I thought officer, I thought it was 60 miles an hour. Well, so what? I still got the ticket. Okay? That's why James Comey, I think, was one of the worst abusers of power in our recent history, because he took it upon himself to create some sort of standard about intent about these kind of things, because he lacked the nerve, and he also lacked the character and integrity required in an FBI director to distribute justice without fear or without favor. And he certainly did both. And then he goes on and writes a self-congratulating book about his honor and all this other stuff, which is a pile of rubbish. I wouldn't line the birdcage with it. But the point is that doesn't mean Donald Trump should be given a pass. But I'll get to that part in the second half. Now, what about Mr. Pence and Mr. Joe Biden about their discovery of classified documents? Again, they cooperated. They said that we didn't know and all this other business. At the least, they should be given a reprimand. Should they go through what Mr. Trump is going? No, because we're talking about a much higher degree of criminality that's been alleged here. But the fact that Joe Biden had documents beside his Joe Cool Corvette in his garage, we don't even know what those classified documents are, how critical they were. Were they very, very important, or were they just classified at the lowest level? We don't know, and we'll probably never know. But the thing that they found these things because of sloppiness and carelessness doesn't mean laws have not been broken. Now, again, I'm not saying Mr. Biden should be arrested and tried and all this other stuff, but a reprimand at the very least from the U.S. Congress would be appropriate. It's not coming because Democrats are going to fall all over themselves to excuse this, just like Republicans are falling all over themselves to excuse Mr. Trump's activities. So nothing's going to happen from that. But Mr. Pence have already dropped the investigation because he said, I did not know I had this document. Turns out it was a single one. And then he just handed it back. Boom, there you go. And Biden probably, I don't think anything is going to come of the FBI investigation of his handling of documents. But what is coming out more and more is that there are serious allegations, credible allegations that not only Joe Biden, but his son Hunter Biden were engaged in profit-making activities when Mr. Biden Sr. was vice president and senator. Do I believe that to be true? I believe it to be true, but I don't know it to be true. And I hope we have a good investigation on this. I'm not holding my breath because any investigation is going to come out of this is going to come out of the House of Representatives, which will be immediately dismissed as partisan, no matter what kind of clear evidence this committee under James Comer will present. And so I hope an independent investigation will take place, but it is not taking place under the Department of Justice. And this gets back to selective enforcement. There is selective enforcement going on. Okay? Joe Biden is getting preferential treatment by his own Department of Justice because of all these possibilities, allegations, which are not going to be pursued by the Department of Justice. And so that's, again, part of my point is that we are engaging in selective, and it's horrific for the country. It's horrific for the country. Betty here agrees 100%. Nobody, no matter who they are, should be above the law. Equal charges and equal trials under the law doesn't necessarily mean equal sentencing or equal punishments under the law. But in Joe Biden's case, I don't even know if we're going to get to that point. I think we're going to get to a certain point where they'll just stonewall it and kick it down the curb. And most of the media, which is not going to pursue that with a great deal of vigor, except maybe in an offhand comment or not, I don't think it's going to have the same kind of attention that the alleged Russia-Trump connection did, which was found to be by John Durham, a complete and total fabrication. Now, I hope that whatever the truth is on the allegations that Joe Biden, through his son Hunter Biden, received financial reimbursements and financial remuneration, so to speak, during his time as vice president, I hope that it is thoroughly investigated by an appropriate and impartial investigator. But right now, that's not happening. And so this is why so many people think of the Donald Trump situation as illegitimate, because they see these two things going on. And whereas they might say, okay, I could see where Donald Trump broke the law, but is always the next response, why didn't they not pursue these things? And why aren't they looking at Joe Biden and on and on? And they have a point. As long as you have this kind of selective attention being paid by the Department of Justice, where they're basically just not going to deal with Joe Biden's situations, but they're going to focus on Donald Trump's, you're going to have millions of Americans are going to claim that you're having partisan, partial application of justice. Now let's talk about Hunter Biden. He pleaded Tuesday to a plea deal about not paying his taxes, and he got a misdemeanor charges on him. But folks, not paying your taxes is a felony in almost every case I ever heard of. And he also got dismissed charge on gun charges because he tried to get a gun. So much for the, anti-gun stance of the Bidens. He tried to buy a gun and he lied on the form, which is a felony. He lied about his past drug use. And so what you have here is Hunter Biden did not pay his taxes. He did not declare himself a foreign agent, which is also a felony. And he basically, with this plea deal, the gun charges, he has to go to some sort of diversion program, which is like, 20 hours of video or something like that. And then he's basically going to, somehow they're going to find the money to pay the fines. And that's it. No, you and I both know if we were dragged before an IRS audit, we better prove ourselves innocent. I read on some very impartial websites, Politico, and I do believe Wall Street Journal and Washington Post and National Review and the New York Times, where I normally get most of my information. They had all the various experts, and some said this is usual, some said this is very unusual. I think it's very unusual, and the fact that Hunter is involved in all these other things warrants a deeper investigation. Plus, you have a fact, about the clip I'm about to show you, shows that the one of the lead investigators in the IRS was taken off the case, and he's speaking publicly saying that they were cutting deals with Hunter Biden's team that they normally wouldn't cut with anybody. So, Taylor, if you'd run that clip, please.
Federal prosecutors agreed today to a plea deal with Hunter Biden, who will plead guilty to 2 tax charges. He also faces a gun charge. The deal allows the president's son to avoid prison time, with many Republicans blasting it as a slap on the wrist. Peter Alexander with late details.
Tonight, after a 5-year investigation, the president's son, Hunter Biden, has reached a plea deal with federal prosecutors to plead guilty to 2 misdemeanor tax charges and likely avoid prison time. Prosecutors say Biden did not pay more than $100,000 in taxes on over $1.5 million in income in both 2017 and 2018. And 2 sources tell NBC News the prosecutor will recommend probation, while also agreeing not to prosecute Hunter Biden for illegally possessing a firearm, even though Biden knew he was barred from doing so because he was using drugs. Biden faced a maximum of 12 months behind bars for each tax charge and up to 10 years for owning the handgun.
I think what's fair is, my client gets on with his life.
Still, Republicans tonight are slamming the deal that comes just days after a special counsel's 37-count indictment against former President Trump for his handling of classified documents. Mr. Trump has pleaded not guilty. The former president tonight accusing the Biden Justice Department of giving Hunter Biden, quote, a mere traffic ticket. Our system is broken. Top Republicans argue it's evidence of a double standard.
It continues to show the 2-tier system in America. If you are the president's leading political opponent, the DOJ tries to literally put you in jail and give you prison time. If you are the president's son, you get a sweetheart deal.
The U.S. attorney leading the Hunter Biden investigation was appointed by former President Trump and was kept in office to avoid conflicts of interest. And Attorney General Merrick Garland has said he is not interfering in the case. Still, a career IRS agent has asked for whistleblower protection, alleging Hunter Biden received special treatment in the investigation.
These deviations from normal process, and each and every time it seemed to always benefit the subject.
The investigation first focused on Hunter Biden's foreign business dealings. He's been blasted by Republicans, including for his high-paying job on the board of a Ukrainian energy company, while Vice President Biden was in charge of Ukraine policy. Hunter was pressed in 2019 whether that company would have asked him to be on its board if his last name was not Biden.
I don't know. Probably not. I don't think that there's a lot of things that would have happened in my life that if my last name wasn't Biden.
And tonight, House Republicans are vowing today's plea deal will not impact their ongoing investigation into Biden family finances.
This is an investigation of whether or not Joe Biden is compromised because of the millions of dollars that his family has received from foreign nationals.
President Biden's repeatedly defended his son.
First of all, my son's done nothing wrong.
Tonight, this reaction after Hunter Biden's agreement to plead guilty.
I'm very proud of my son.
So, Peter, how might this have an impact on the 2024 campaign?
Lester, it removes the possibility of a trial, which would have been a huge headache for President Biden in the middle of a campaign. Still, for Republicans, as you heard, it keeps alive their allegation of a two-tiered justice system, and we're already seeing top Republican candidates fundraising off today's news. Lester?
Peter Alexander at the White House. Thanks. Let me bring in our justice correspondent, Ken Delaney. And Ken, Hunter Biden's lawyers say the investigation is now over, but the U.S. attorney says it's ongoing. So where does this case actually stand right now?
Lester, law enforcement officials tell NBC News that this investigation involved a detailed scrub of Hunter Biden's financial affairs, and these tax charges are what prosecutors decided to bring. But there may still be related matters under investigation. Meanwhile, Hunter Biden will soon report to this courthouse to find out whether a federal judge will go along with the terms of the plea deal, including no prison time.
Thanks for watching our YouTube channel. Follow.
Hey, Lester, it's my turn. It'll be interesting to see if the judge goes along with it. I'm betting he will, or she will. I don't know who the judge is, so we'll see. Betty makes a comment about how people are tuning out of politics because of these things, and absolutely it's true. I can't tell you how many people I talk to, they'll ask me questions about it because they think I know something about politics or whatever because I do this, and they're just saying, oh, I just don't even watch anymore, or don't read the paper anymore because it's just so discouraging to see that the leaders of our country just so corrupt. It's the only word I could think of. Joe Biden and Donald Trump, the difference between them and their level of corruption is minimal. Okay. Now we could say, well, Joe Biden's not as corrupt as Donald Trump. Well, goody for him that he's not as corrupt. But there's no question that it's turned so many people off politics. And then you add to that the shouters and hair pullers that seem to dominate every open meeting. And the fact that the Republican Party is hell-bent on nominating Donald Trump despite all of this, and the Democrat Party is hell-bent on nominating Joe Biden despite not just these things, but also his very apparent age issues. No one wants to talk about that because you want to be ageist. I'll be ageist. He is showing serious decline. And but these two, we're heading towards an election between these two polarizing figures. That's what I want to say. And it's like, please, for the love of God, Democrats, Republicans, think about what you're doing. Think about the country. Nominate people that we can, it may not have to like, we may not have to vote for, but just that are just not this level of corruption and disgrace to our nation. Here's my editorial. But let's talk about also the indictment of Mr. Trump. Despite all of this I'm talking about the Justice Department and its two-tiered system, like McCarthy mentioned, which I believe there is. And not just in this case. If you're connected, well-known, and can afford expensive representation in the courts, the likelihood of you facing the consequences of your crimes is much less. If you're middle income or poor, you're basically out of luck. So we do have a two-tiered system. We don't have a system of justice where somebody like a Hunter Biden is going to be treated the same way as Bradley Wayne Allard would have been had I not paid $100,000 on my taxes for 2 years. But does that mean that Donald Trump should not have been indicted? My opinion is yes, he should have been indicted because I think the crimes that he is being accused of not only are just that serious, but they are different, not so much in kind from Hillary and Hunter, but they are different in the scope and in his complete obstinance and his misleading of even his own attorneys about the situation, about those documents. Here's the thing we should understand about Donald Trump's indictment. Most of it really isn't about the possession of the documents themselves. Is like they always say, it's always the cover-up that's worse than the crime. What he's being indicted on in a lot of the charges is 37 charges, and a lot of those are obstruction of justices and misleading investigators and things of that nature. It isn't so much he held in his hand a document he should not have held. That is part of it. However, what would have happened had he had done what other presidents have done when they have been caught or have discovered they had something they shouldn't have. They just handed it back. That excuse that all the presidents do it is hogwash. Okay, all the presidents don't do that. For one thing, they will very diligently go through their documents and make sure what is classified is kept safe and what is unclassified they can give to their library or whatever else. According to the clip you're going to see, Donald Trump had clothes in those boxes along with these documents and newspaper articles and all this other stuff, according to Trump. Even though that's not part of the investigation, is that they found his clothes. That excuse is total rubbish. But the point is that what makes his worse than any of the president we've ever had come close to this is that he knew what he had was classified. He knew what he had, and this is all recorded on tape, him saying this. He knew that he was showing people that had no business being shown this material, and he was bragging about it. And then when he was asked by the archives people, we want those documents back, they stonewalled. It came out on the news yesterday on NBC News that the FBI waited a year before they finally decided to make that raid in Mar-a-Lago last August, because they were afraid of the political consequences and how it would be perceived in an election year and things of that nature. But they went ahead and did it, obviously. But the point is, they had this situation here where Trump knew what he had was classified and was bragging about it. And then when they contacted his attorneys, that the government contacted the attorneys, the FBI contacted his attorneys, he had them unknowingly lie, because he lied to his attorneys. He had the attorneys tell them there are no classified documents, and then they had the raid and find boxes of it stored in the bathroom. On that note on the bathroom, well, McCarthy, the speaker, really kind of made an ass of himself when they asked about that. Well, bathrooms have locked doors, as if a locked door in a bathroom was going to deter James Bond. And the fact that you locked the doors from the inside maybe didn't occur to Mr. McCarthy. But this point is that what they were saying about him, about these documents, are true. One of the most egregious examples is him showing, just strangers practically, the war plans we have against Iran. It's pretty serious. We're not, some of these classified documents are low level, and you're not supposed to have them. But there's levels of classification, and that's on the very top. And he was showing people, Kid Rock, the rock and roll musician, those plans, and several others. And now the attorneys who were lied to have quit his case, and they're going to turn state's evidence, because their own license is at risk now, because they can be charged with perjury. And they said, well, we didn't know. And so they dropped Trump as a client. And so a lot of the information, and this is important, I'm going to drive this one home, a lot of the information that the FBI got wasn't through digging through just Donald Trump's files and whatnot, all those boxes. It was given to them by Trump's ex-attorneys. Some of the accusations that resulted in these indictment charges came from inside the Trump legal circle itself. And so that's what struck me about some of this. It wasn't allegations that came from outside, but when the allegations were coming and the FBI were pressing in, and the attorneys found out that Trump did have these documents, even though they were told that he didn't, they said, by God, we're going to be looking at years in jail and disbarment. And so that's why they're cooperating now. So here's the thing we should understand. Yes, the FBI and Department of Justice have definitely mishandled the cases, but that doesn't mean in this case that they're wrong in doing so. Now, as far as what happened a couple of days ago, I've seen clips of it. I didn't see the whole thing. Trump had an interview with Fox News with Brett Baer, whom, I know all the reputation damage that Fox has had about dealing with the Trump election and all this other business at 2020. Brett Baer ain't part of that. Brett Baer is a legitimate news man and a legitimate journalist. That's a sad thing, too, because it's the Fox commentators that give him the reputation to. Fox News actually is not bad at all, but all the commentators, the Hannitys and Ingrams and, certainly Tucker Carlson, that's what gives Fox that reputation, and not undeservedly. But the point is that that this interview was a disaster for Trump because he could not explain himself at all. And when Bret Baier kept pushing on him to explain himself, it was a disaster. For this, I don't want to run about 30 minutes of clips on it because first of all, I have to be a subscriber to Fox to get them, and I don't subscribe to a lot of news websites because they clog up my email. But I have a couple articles. One by Karl Rove, the campaign advisor and campaign manager for George W. And also another guy named Tom Nichols from the Atlantic, who's no friend of Trump. So it's a pretty widespread here. And they basically said that was a terrible one. I'm going to quote from because this way you can get the idea without me mumbling and stumbling through it. I'm quoting Mr. Rove now. Mr. Baier asked Mr. Trump why, after leaving office, he kept very sensitive national security defense documents like the war plans for a strike on Iran, that last part being in quotes, rather than say the obvious, wise thing, he shouldn't speak at all, he shouldn't speak at all about an ongoing legal case in which he's involved. Mr. Trump talked freely and in ways sure to create additional political difficulties for him. Mr. Trump said every right to take the classified documents. He didn't. He said everything was declassified. His lawyers have not made that claim. I'll get to that point in a minute. He insisted he acted like every other president in leaving office with boxes upon boxes of papers. No other president did what he did. And that's why I have a hard time in this conversation with friends of mine because they say, well, presidents have done that. No, they have not. Okay? And if they did, it was a stray paper here or there. Nobody in our history did what Donald Trump did to that, and not even close to that degree. But here's what Mr. Rowe was getting at by trying to exonerate himself on Bret Baier's interview. He just made things worse because what's happening here is they're not disputing the facts; they're disputing the law. Okay, they're disputing the fact that these were really declassified because President Trump, by some sort of mental telepathy, declassified them. The fact that it touched his hand made it declassified. That is not what happens. That's not how it works. There is a whole process involved in that through the archives and through national security, and everybody's got to vet it and all this other business. And only people with highest security can vet it. And so there's a process for all of this, and he just took the boxes. And so his lawyers are probably about ready to throw themselves off a bridge because what he just did is basically said, I did it, and it's all good. He basically he contradicted a sworn statement to the FBI when he told those attorneys that he did not have those documents. That set him up for a beauty of a perjury charge. He swore on a document to the FBI that he did not have it, and his attorney signed off on it. And now he says, yeah, I had it, and it's no big deal. Everybody does it, and I'm the president. I can do what I want. All right. Taylor, run that clip, the second one. There was a comment by Chris Christie in it I think is pretty enlightening. So run that if you would, please.
It was contentious from the get-go.
First of all, I won in 2020 by a lot, okay?
You lost the 2020 election. There were lawsuits, more than 50 of them, by your lawyers, some in front of judges that you appointed. There have been reviews of every potential case of voter fraud in 6 battleground states, and they found fewer than 475 cases.
You know why? Because they didn't look at the right things.
Okay.
There's more fallout from the interview as legal analysts say Trump may have handed federal prosecutors a gift.
It appears to me last night, as a former prosecutor, that he admitted obstruction of justice on the air last night. I can tell you this, his lawyers this morning are jumping out of whatever window they're near.
The former president tried to explain his side of the documents case.
I have every right to have those boxes.
They did ask for it.
No, and
they said,
I gave
can you
them
give the documents back?
And we were talking.
And then they said they went to DOJ to subpoena you to get them
Which
back.
they've never done before.
Right. But why not just hand them over then?
Because I had boxes. I want to go through the boxes and get all my personal things out. I don't want to hand that over. These boxes were interspersed with all sorts of things. Golf shirts, clothing, pants, shoes. There were many things. I would say much. much more, not that I know of, but not that I know of.
Fox News' Britt Hume.
His answers on the matters of the law seemed to me to verge on incoherent. It was not altogether clear what he was saying, but he seemed to believe that the documents were his, that he had declassified them, evidence to the contrary.
Trump also said his adult children would not be part of any future Trump administration.
We don't need all the rest of that. But anyway, he said, not that I know of about those Iran war plans, even though he's on tape waving them around and bragging about them to some unknown guests. So, Chris Christie's right. He really set the prosecutors up really nicely for some of these charges, because they're going to run that tape back in the Brett Baier interview and say, you said these things to him, but you said these things to us, and we didn't find clothes and T-shirts and whatnot in the boxes. We found these documents. There's no question that what we're doing here, that Donald Trump really did have these documents, and he knew what they meant. And he enjoyed it. He enjoyed having them because it made him look like a big man. There's a great article by a guy named Fenton O'Toole over the New York Review of Books. I read a couple of days ago. Said he was keeping those for future books and future deals, to be a big shot. And and that's basically what he's doing. And I'm quoting also again from Mr. Rove. There were no classified documents, he claimed, only newspaper articles, copies of articles, and magazines. He held this line even when Mr. Baier, pointed out the prosecutors say they have recordings of Mr. Trump at his Bedminster Golf Club saying the opposite. Okay, which is what I just pointed out. Mr. Trump also strongly suggested, with no evidence, that the FBI planted classified materials during their Mar-a-Lago search. They could be stuffing, he said. I don't know what they put in there. So he's saying basically the FBI planted that evidence on him. That's a bogus lie as well, because again, they got not only his own attorneys now saying that differently, but also those tapes. That they have recordings of Mr. Trump at his Bedminster Golf Club saying the opposite. So that's, it's just crazy. And again, they get into the 2020 election, and I give a lot of credit to Mr. Baier for saying bluntly, you lost the 2020 election. And I've always thought that. I'm not saying that there was a case here, case there, maybe a precinct in Detroit over here or whatever, or down in Houston down there that didn't play by the rules. That happens in every election. But the point is that Mr. Baier is right. They had over 50 lawsuits, many in front of Trump appointed judges, and they all got thrown out for lack of evidence. And you had 6 states with Republican legislatures. All, Georgia, Arizona, Wisconsin, Pennsylvania. What's the other 2? It doesn't matter. But Georgia. How can I forget Georgia? But anyway, the point is that they all had Republican-led investigations come up with nothing. But that's going to be his main thing, is I was cheated. Now, as far as Mr. Nichols is concerned, Mr. Nichols is, I would say, left-leaning. I wouldn't call him a rabid liberal by any means, but whatever else. But he points out also another thing as well, is just what Brett Hume had referred to, that he was basically incoherent. Particularly, there's this one episode where he's talking about the death penalty for drug dealers. And I don't have the extended clip that does not have a bunch of commentary from other guys like myself, other YouTubers or whatnot. But when he started talking about the death penalty for drug dealers, he starts talking about, China 150 years ago, nobody could, do anything. China was a wreck of a country because of all these things. And then they got their problem solved when Baier said, well, yeah, they did through the communist crackdown and all this. And, it's because it is a death penalty to deal drugs in China. And I said, yeah, but it took a communist crackdown and to do this, and their justice system is nothing to follow. And Trump said, in effect, he wants to bring that in his next term, death to drug dealers, like they do in Middle Eastern countries. Most of your Islamic-based countries, it's death to drug dealers, or at least life sentence in jail. And it's ironic because Baier points this out as well. There was a woman that Trump had pardoned. She was head of a cocaine ring, and he pardoned her, and she did a commercial for him during the Super Bowl. And Baier brings that up. Do you have that clip, Taylor?
Yeah.
All right, let's see if you got it going. That was on a Twitter clip, so see if that one works.
As an example, a woman who you know very well was in jail. She had 24 more years to serve. She served for 22 years. She had 20.
Alice Johnson.
Alice.
She was in the Super Bowl.
High quality. Oh, yeah. I said, how many years? And she was on a telephone call, and they were involved in selling marijuana, mostly marijuana. And she got like 50 years in jail.
But she'd be killed under your plan.
Huh?
As a drug dealer.
No. Under that, it would depend on the severity. It would depend on the severity.
She's technically a former drug dealer. She had multi-million-dollar cocaine ring.
Any drug dealer, look.
So even Alice Johnson in that ad.
She can't do it, okay? By the way, if that was there, no, she wouldn't be killed. It would start as of now, so you wouldn't go to the past.
I know, but...
Well, the commentator's a lot to say about that he had no idea what he was saying and the impact of it was going on. Anyway, so on and on. Here's the drill. This is why I detest Donald Trump so much, because he's not just disrupting the Republican Party and the justice system and our election system. He's also disrupting numerous relationships between friends and family. I can't talk about Mr. Trump to several people I know well because they will not see it. I can't talk about Mr. Trump for those who detest and despise him so much that they aren't people I can talk with because they're just so over the top. But Donald Trump has destroyed everything he's ever put his hand on. He destroyed the USFL back in the 1980s. He has left thousands of New York vendors in lawsuits. He's had over 3,500 lawsuits against him, or he's been involved in with vendors of his properties in New York. He has destroyed the Republican Party, absolutely. This isn't the Republican Party of Ronald Reagan and the Bushes or John McCain and all these others. And these people don't want it that way, but they're going to get what they're going to get, which is Mr. Trump probably going to be renominated. I plan on doing a show, my next open date, maybe Monday, maybe a week from Monday, about the Republican primaries, because there's still people jumping in. As of this morning, there was another one. But he destroyed the election system with that January 6th process where they threatened to hang the vice president. What kind of country is that? He destroyed Fox News, or they've destroyed themselves over Donald Trump and taken his claims at face value by, rigged voting machines and whatever else. Why the Republican Party wants to nominate this man again? We can have policies we like without all this. I talk to people that still like Trump, and they say, well, I know he's kind of a rogue and a rascal and a cad, but I like his policies. Okay, we can argue about those policies. Some of them, are better than others. There's a few Trump policies I actually endorsed. But we can have that with other people. We don't have to have Donald Trump to do that. Okay, so I want to sum this up. Yes, the system of justice at the national level is biased, partisan, and partial. And I think the way Hunter Biden's been treated, not just with this plea deal, but prior to that and the laptop deal and all this other business, shows that. I think Hillary Clinton deserved a whole lot more retribution, I guess, not just political, but, public, legal retribution. That's the word I'm looking for. That she got, but she didn't. And that's not right. But this isn't either. Donald Trump doesn't get a pass on this because the Department of Justice failed in these other cases, or is failing. They say that's unfair. Donald Trump, yes, you did it to yourself. We're not talking about an unfair prosecution in the sense that they're making up information and they planted it on him, or they're taking, the Steele dossier and making a case out of which was a disgrace. That whole Russia collusion thing was a disgrace. And there should be recriminations and prosecutions based on that. All that's true. But Donald Trump, in my opinion, violated the law in very serious ways. And he needs to be held accountable for that. All partisanship aside, most people know that I usually vote Republican, even though in the last couple elections, in some cases, I just left it blank because it just got too difficult to do it. But that's me. But for y'all, I hope we still keep our eye on the ball. That what he did was extremely serious. This isn't just some minor papers that just got stuck in with his shoes and his golf shoes and whatever else, which is what an excuse. This is serious, and I hope we don't tear ourselves as a country apart over this. But it's like this is all that Trump knows is tearing things apart. He tears up our relationships. He tears up our society. It's like Donald Trump is like this destructive tornado that everything he touches, he destroys. And I'm afraid he's going to do that again to the justice system in this trial, which supposedly the judge has set the trial date for late August, but nobody expects that to be upheld. They figured they'll be delayed a few months for other type of motions and discovery and all this other stuff. They say the likelihood of it being tried before the 2024 election is less than 50-50. So we'll see. But anyway, y'all have a good weekend. I'll be here Monday. I've got a couple things I'm thinking about planning. One is that there was a report in the news about how poorly our kids are doing in school nationwide. And I'll probably be talking a little bit about that. I'm sorry, I get some caught here. I'm also, like I said, Tuesday, I'm going to take the day off because Shandy, again, was going to be here, but now she's going to be for me in another capacity up with my daughter. And then next Thursday, I have Jennifer Woods again with Harvest House. We're going to talk about some of the summer plans going on. Chad Gray here. Good to see you, bud. Says team left the vote blank. I did that. I'm also looking to find information on a group called No Labels, which has got a lot of people pretty stirred up. So we'll see about that. Anyway, Taylor, thank you for your dexterity at the controls.
Always.
All right, y'all send this to your friends if they're in all my humility here. If they don't understand what's going on, I hope myself and the combination of the news clips and the articles I read off of will kind of clarify some of this stuff. So we'll see you all on Monday. Y'all take care.